on that beat, go.
Aye, monster on the beat, ho, Debo, any rap nigga, he a free throw. Man down, call like Amber Lambs, tell him breathe, bro. Nail a nigga to the cross, he walk around like Tizo. What's up with these jabroni ass niggas trying to see Compton? They in the street can hate me, fuck them all and they mama. How many options you really got? I mean, it's too many options. I'm finna pass on this body, I'm John Stockton. Beat your ass and hide the Bible if God watching. Sometimes you gotta pop out and show niggas. Certified boogeyman, I'm the one that up to score with him. Walk him down whole time, I know he got some hoe in him. Pole on him, extort shit, bully the flow on him. Say Drake, I hear you like I'm young. You better not ever go to cell block 1. To any bitch that talk to him and they in love, just make sure you hide your little sister from him. They tell me Chubb's the only one that get your hand-me-downs. And party at the party playing with his nose now. And Baca got a weird case, why is he around? Certified lover boys, certified pedophiles. Wop, 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 wop. That fuck him up. Wop, 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 wop. I'ma do my stuff. Why you trolling like a bitch, ain't you tired? Trying to strike a chord and it's probably a They not like us. 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 They not like us.
They not like us. They not like us. This is the Unfiltered Truth. I'm your host, Philly Phil. Phil Jones with me. He's on out there on remote. Phil, what's happening, baby? Jones, you there? Jones, I know you're in the background. So yeah, there we go. I can hear you now.
Hey, hey. I'm back, motherfuckers!
With the darkness. Can barely see your face. Make sure you smile.
Oh,
Oh, what's up, everybody? How's everybody doing? Says shout out to Digital Prez for the intro video.
hey, nephew did it big on that one. I love it.
Nephew did it. Oh, yes, he did. Yes, he did. That was some A+ work right there.
No,
But-
Kev, I'm not at a motherfucking Popeyes. I just literally left out of the motherfucking gym and got my workout in. Are you lifting, bro? Motherfucker, are you lifting?
So are you getting your cardio in? That's the real question. Hard.
I mean, that's why you swim laps, bro. That's why they call me Aqua Nigga.
Aqua nigga. Little Prince Prez, my lawyer. That's funny. That's funny. Anyway, so while we are waiting on our special guest, Mr. Logan Reever from 8 News Now in Las Vegas, the sports anchor, to recap some of what he's seen in training camp for the last couple days, especially with the pads on, because that's when football really starts. Let's be honest. It's nice to see everybody get out there, do some drills, throw the ball at a net, chase each other with a stick with a pad on it, jumping, you know what I'm saying, do tackling drills on a bag. And then when you put the pads on, shit gets real. So
Kev, I ain't taking the damn disrespect right now, that damn it.
right?
Listen here, boy. It's called taking a shower. Kev, when the last time you took a shower? When the last time you washed your ass? Because, Kev, I can smell you through this phone and you smell like 9 yards of shit. Rich, that's only you because you the only grease monkey we know. Y'all motherfuckers done started already.
He said your name is Phil Swall. I wouldn't take that from a dude calling himself Circus, but damn it, that was funny.
It's too early for this shit.
Grease on grease.
Damn right, there would be no Jones slander tonight. But I'm just gonna say this, man. I mean, first few weeks, couple of practices and shit going through. These guys going and hit the whole fucking pads yesterday. And I'm just gonna say I'm glad for football to be back. Slap me, motherfucker, slap me.
Whoa. Whoa.
You don't remember John Henderson doing that shit?
Yeah, I remember that. I was like, man, that was pretty nuts. I know the NFL players gotta do crazy things to get themselves there to go out there, but I don't know.
That towel boy said he used to be scared when he slapped him. He said, "You sure you want me to slap you?" He said, "Slap me." He said, "You sure? I don't want to slap you. Don't kill me." He said, "I'm gonna kill the motherfucker on the field, not you."
Okay. Yeah,
that was the one time.
I remember that shit when he had to get on the chair.
That was the one time a white man got away with slapping a big ass nigga.
He asked him to do it. Thank you, sir. May I have another?
Kev says we got two solid quarterbacks. We good. Are we really good? Are we really solid? That is the question, and that is what we go into the season thinking. Are we really solid?
And without further ado, because this man is on a time limit, we have Mr. Logan Reever.
Guys,
pretty good. How you doing?
Logan, what's up, man?
doing pretty well. Trying to stay out of the sun here in LA, but it's about as brutal as it gets right now.
Man, this ain't Vegas heat
out here. Talking about you out there by the beach.
Yeah, it's a different level of confidence. It's not as hot, but you think you can get away with more because you're just chilling in the sun. You're like, oh, this is nice. You're not getting obliterated like you are in Vegas right now.
So do you get out to California much?
Get out to California for the Raiders, I'll tell you that. They've been giving us reasons to trip out there for the last couple of weeks, so it's been pretty sweet.
Nice. So let's get into it. Pads have been on 2 days. What have you seen?
I think it's been an interesting mix. I think the first day of pads were, I don't want to say a watered down version, but it was a lot more run game. And I think just kind of installing a lot of that. I think you saw a little bit more today because they definitely let the pass game out a little bit more. And I think obviously the big takeaway had been, and you can ask any of the people that were there, I think this was day number 6 of practices, regardless of pads or not. And the defense had won pretty much every day up until this point. And so today was kind of the first day that the offense fought back and had a decent amount of chunk plays down the field. It just looked like they had a rhythm to them. So I think it was definitely an encouraging sign. We've been seeing them go back and forth with Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew definitely had a better day. Aiden O'Connell he didn't have a bad day. He definitely wasn't helped out. There was a good amount of drops from some tight ends, some of the younger players. And that's sometimes what you get when playing with the second unit. So it'll be interesting to see the next time they get back out on the field. If AOC has a little bit of a bounce back too, if he gets another reps with the ones like we assume he will.
So here's a curveball. How has Anthony Brown looked?
Anthony Brown's pretty decent. I mean, you only get him every couple of reps. Obviously, it's super limited windows, but I mean, the other day he ripped off a 70-yard touchdown run on an RPO, and it's like, oh, that guy's got some ability. Obviously, he's a little bit raw and would need a little bit more development, but he's very much a player that, like, there's been a couple times where, like, who made that throw? That was Anthony Brown. He's sometimes delivered some of the better throws on the days up until this point. And like I've been mentioning, the quarterbacks haven't necessarily won all of the days. So to have a guy stand out, and Anthony Brown's done that a couple of times. But again, you're looking at reps with the second, third unit, if that. He's getting maybe 5 or 6 sometimes a day. So it's tough to get such a small sample size, but he's looked decent in the times we've seen him out there for sure. Definitely a lot of athletic ability.
So basically, the times that he's getting his reps, he takes full advantage of it.
That's a fair way to put it. Yeah. You got to take into consideration who it's going up against, but I would definitely agree with that.
Now, one thing that's, on my mind, I know that you don't have a Colton Miller out there. You don't have a you don't have Powers Jackson out there. So how is Pete doing at the left tackle position, just filling in for Colton Miller? I know we go back and look at towards the end of last season, Colton was kind of held out for a couple of games, even though he could have went, but they were like, hey, let's go with the next guy instead of going out there and making things worse on your whatever injuries linger and whatnot. So how's he been looking and how's he been filling in so far?
I think it's been some ups and downs with the offensive line. I think something to very much keep in mind is that anytime you're going up against, because the Raiders now have depth on all sides of their defensive line. It's not just Max, and you got Christian out there who's causing havoc as well. And then Malcolm Kuntz is really starting to develop just into the player that we saw towards the end of last year. I think he's had a really decent camp as well. So when you take those things into account, I think Max has talked about this a lot. Thayer Munford has talked about this a lot. These guys are iron sharpening iron, getting each other better. So sometimes when you see maybe there's room for improvement on that play, it's like, well, he's also going up against one of the best in the game there. So I think yesterday the offensive line and the tackle spots had a pretty decent day. They were challenged by Antonio Pierce going into it. And I think today, the defensive line, that's the big thing, is that the defensive line has been the most consistent unit so far of the team in any of these training camp practices. But we kind of expected that going in, right? Like, we think they're going to be one of the top lines in football, just top to bottom. So I wish that there was joint practices. You could get a real sense of how these guys would go up against different competition. But Antonio Pierce also said that he made it a point to not have joint practices for a number of reasons that would benefit the team too. So there's no point in questioning any of that. So to get a real gauge of how he would be against the rest of the league, I think is a little bit different of how he would be against this Raiders defensive line, who has, I don't think they've had a bad day yet. I know Max Crosby has not had a bad day yet. So ups and downs as it tends to go this time of year. It's still super early, so having any diagnosis on any guy is tough at this point.
So is it Cody Whitehair in the starting lineup right now?
So starting lineup, they've been switching a lot of guys in and out, so it's tough to get a read of who has been exactly doing that. And in a lot of ways, like, you even look at the running back room, like Dylan Labe has been getting a decent amount of first team reps, switching in with Zamir White, and Alexander Madison as well. So does that mean he's a first team player? Not necessarily, but I think they're trying just a number of units to go along out there. Defensively, they've had pretty much the same first team unit out there at every single spot, but you can tell they're mixing and matching the first team right now, whether that's offensive line, running backs, and especially quarterback, like we're talking about too. So, I mean, this is the time to be experimental when it comes to the guys that you want out there and see who works together. And I'll say it's been working with Labe. He's been pretty impressive, as is Brock Bowers. This rookie class has looked really good.
Now, there's one guy that's, I was rooting for him. I know I watched how he performed at the Senior Bowl last year, and then seeing what he did at Alabama. Can you give me an update on how Byron Young has looked so far, coming into just like mini camp and then coming into training camp now?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been too focused on him. I haven't seen a lot of him out there. I think that there's been a number of guys who have got a little bit more reps and played a little bit more. It's tough to get buried sometimes this time of year as well too. Especially, you see some guys getting some chances, and then you see a lot of newer guys trying to work themselves in as well. So I don't have a full scouting report on him at this moment, but definitely something to keep the eyes peeled out for. But hey, 9 times out of 10, those Bama guys are going to show up in some way, shape, or form making plays.
For sure. And how has Tyrese Get-Offs been looking?
Say that one more time.
Tyree Wilson get his get-offs from out of his stance, getting across the line of scrimmage.
I think there's still a ways to go with Tyree. I think that he's one of the guys that, he's kind of been one of the ones who's been fluctuating between first team and second team. And you can tell, I think Christian Wilkins has been talking to him a good amount. I think the get off is one thing. I think the technique is another one. He talked a lot about sort of his mentality when it comes to pass rushing. That's something Max has talked a lot about too. And he's been working a lot with trying to deal with, he's been getting some double teams at times too. So I think that he's still in a pretty similar spot to where he was last year from what I see right now. does he have the physical abilities? Of course he does. I think that he truly just needs to get a game sense, because I think that there was times last year where the game was too fast, and he's such a big menacing player, but the game can still be too fast for guys that have that physical ability as well. So hopefully the coaching from whether it be the players or his, obviously the guys that he has on that in the defensive side of the room in Antonio Pierce, and there's just so many former head coaches that are out on the field with these guys too, can get through to him. But I'll say that there's definitely still some room for growth with him, especially in that get off.
Okay.
Now that's disappointing. I thought that I had hoped that since the foot had gotten better, that would improve.
Yeah, he's working back. He's working back with the first and the second team. So I think that's telling at this point.
Okay.
So like with him working with the first and second team, is he like rotating from the outside and then working in the inside as well again?
Yeah, they've been similar to what I was kind of saying with the offense. They've been kind of mixing and matching guys with
Okay.
a whole bunch of different spots. There's been times I've seen him out there right next to Christian Wilkins, and then there's been times I've seen him out there on the edge as well. So I think that they're trying to also get a gauge of where they can use him, because keep in mind, this defensive line now is really deep. So they can afford to have a guy like Tyree Wilson being like, hey, we need
take his time to develop.
Situation. Yeah, absolutely.
You're absolutely right. I mean, I wouldn't even be mad about it, because if you got Malcolm Kuntz coming out of his little shell, and then like having this little breakout towards the end of last season, and then going into now, and then him able to handle the run and pass. I mean, I get it. I totally get it, where you can let him just be a rotational player for right now, and then when it's good and ready, say, hey, boom, we're ready to rock with him at full capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I had another. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I was just agreeing with what you were saying.
So I had been reading your 11 on 11 notes, and one of the things that I noticed that the offense was being successful at was outside runs. And has there been a problem with contain on the edges?
Say that last part one more time. You cut a little bit out.
Sorry. I said, has there been an issue or let's say the Achilles heel has been the outside contain on run plays?
I wouldn't say that. I think a lot of the ones that they've found success in, I mean, the big thing to keep in mind too is that, and especially when you're gauging some of those plays, is that it's not that the defense is going half speed, but say that Robert Spillane has a chance to really get a hit, but they don't want to destroy these running backs. So 9 times out of 10, you're kind of assuming that, like especially on that list, like the runs that were truly 15 or 20 yards, they were legit 15 or 20 yards. They weren't like, hey, 5 yards and then he gets his first contact and he's probably going to break out of that. It's really just kind of the first contact with that too. In those cases, like there was a lot of end arounds. Like for instance, the ones that was getting people really excited, the Brock Bowers, they're running a lot of end around stuff. They've been doing that with DJ Turner as well. So I wouldn't say necessarily that it's because they're favoring one side or the other, because you'll see mixed and matched in there is that there's a lot of plays where there's, especially yesterday, there was a lot of pitch plays where they were even trying Jacoby Myers out to the side, and you have two guys that blew it up all the way over on the side too. So, I think the offense was going to get theirs to a degree as well, but you're seeing a lot more of the schemed plays that were getting them outside. I wouldn't necessarily say it was a failure or something was blown up or went wrong on the defensive side on those outside plays, because trust me, right, the defense has been everywhere. The defense has been as good as advertised, and something I talked about yesterday was I think the big leap that they could maybe make from last year that people did not expect, especially that I did not expect, comes in the secondary, because so far I think that Jack Jones has looked better. Jacorian Bennett definitely looks better. And then Marcus Epps, Trayvon Moehrig have gotten so much praise, and Antonio Pierce has really just called them the backbone of this defense and really the reason that they kind of go. And so if this secondary can make a substantial leap, or even if it's just a small amount getting better, I think that you're going to see a team that's going from top 10 in points allowed to maybe even creeping up near the top 5 too.
Top 5 in points allowed.
That's if they make that jump. Don't keep me to that. That's just at least the way it's trending right now. Like I said before, I wish there was joint practices to really get a gauge, because the offense has struggled at times too. So the defense has definitely ruled the day in some of these, but it was the fact that there was a bounce back today, and Gardner Minshew definitely looked as poised, and he looked like it was a game setting, because we've heard from so many different people, because he's been on multiple teams now, is that he's very much a gamer. Like, he's a decent practice player, but when he gets to games,
Is when it shows
it's
up.
just a little bit
He's
more.
a whole different person. Okay.
Yeah. And some guys are just built like that. And I think today he very much had that mentality where it felt like a game to him. And maybe it was just from the fact of some of the poor performances going into the day. It wasn't anything terrible, but it was just like, hey man, the offense definitely hasn't won the day. I think they won the day today.
I get what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Um, quick. Delmar Glaze. What have you seen out of him?
Did you say DJ Glaze?
Yeah, Delmar.
Yes.
Yeah. He's been getting a lot of praise from guys. I think that's one of the things when we've been talking with a lot of the offensive linemen. He's the first name that comes out of their mouths, and I think that that's for a reason. I think this class as a whole, all of these guys have just been able to, I don't know, find roles where it's not built up out of nowhere. It's not just like, hey, here's this guy and we're going to prop him up. It's because of legitimate performance out on the field. And so the offensive line room, like you guys have referenced, there's some guys out right now. So there's definitely room for opportunities for these guys to get these reps in these situations. And they're going up against some of the best. And DJ Glaze has been one that has come out of he's been coming out of things where he has a chance to get reps in a situation where maybe he normally wouldn't. So I remember that a guy like Thayer Mumford was talking about him a good amount. Dylan Parham was raving about him. That was one of the longer answers that he had with us, was talking about his development. So I think there's definitely
Yeah.
encouraging signs, and this is the time to do it. This is, training camp is all about development, and for the guys that can get those roles. So we'll continue if he can just keep getting a little bit better each day. We're not asking him to be in a significant role at this point, but he's had encouraging signs from some of his peers and his teammates on that offensive side.
I, I actually believe it. I cover Maryland over here on this side of the country, and I'm gonna tell you this: from games that I've seen Glaze playing, he's switched over to that left side, came over to the right side. He's like, "Look, coach, whatever you need me to do, I'm gonna do it." He's that
They,
kind of guy, and I
yeah,
think we need that for this team here.
they have a decent amount of those guys on the offensive line right now, whether it's Dylan Parham switching sides. And, I think Jackson Powers Johnson offers a lot of versatility with an Andre James. I think there's a good amount of guys that you can kind of mix and match. And you guys know this, when you get in the actual NFL season, those 5 guys that you trotted out on week 1, 9 times out of 10, that is not going to be the case by week 4,
Week
week 5.
4.
Those guys are not going to be playing the same position. So in a lot of ways, versatility and flexibility might be more important than you just being really good in your one area. And so if you can get guys that are 70% as good as they are in their normal spots, maybe in another one, I think that's a win, because all the other teams in the league are going to be dealing with the same thing too.
No, I feel like it does throw a couple teams off, like on their game plan. Like, you're able to say, "Hey, Dylan, we're gonna move you to left guard for this game this week. We feel you got a better matchup advantage on this guy. Uh, Powers Jackson, we're gonna switch you at center, and then we're gonna put Andre James at guard." I mean, I can see that stuff happening. So,
Absolutely.
uh,
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully you don't have to get in the spot where you're down too many bodies, but it's a nice
yeah,
luxury to have if you're in that spot, that you can say you can have a little bit of confidence that somebody will be out there and things won't fall apart.
no, absolutely.
How's Munford looked?
I think Thayer has definitely looked. He's looked good, and you have to keep in mind who he's going up against. Like I just talked about a lot there. I think confidence wise is maybe the biggest thing I've seen with him, because just in the way that he talks about being challenged and just the message as a whole, you can tell that he's a leader in the offensive line group. And I think that you can never have enough of those guys. I don't want to say it's a quiet confidence, because he's not a quiet guy, but he very much takes me as somebody who lets his play do the talking. And so far early in this camp, I think that he's found himself a little bit more. I get it. We're 6 practices in. What does that truly mean and entail? But it's just something about watching him out there in the form. And, he's also one of the first guys who's talking to some of the other players about fixing their things. And I think when you get to a point confidence-wise and you feel so good in your technique that you can pass it along to somebody else, as opposed to being in your own head about those things, then you can definitely start to skyrocket. So he's been a teacher early on, and I think he's been a voice to some of these young guys who we're talking about, who have been thrown into these roles where they're getting more reps. They need a guy like that. So Thayer has been, in terms of the offense, I think he's one of the guys that's looked really good. And then really the rest of that list kind of boils down to rookies right now who are kind of taking a lot of the conversation and the narrative.
And it was kind of a trick question because obviously I know who he's going up against every day in practice. But with the whole iron sharpening iron, it's also you also have the unique perspective to see what he looks like against the NFL's elite.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, Max is still playing as good as he did last year. There's no drop off. He always talks about getting a little bit better, and it's funny because the thing that isn't always telling in those 11 on 11 stats that you referenced a second ago is that sure you have some max pressures in there or whatnot. Like these guys, it's not a game speed. Like if I would say in at least 15 to 20% of those plays that happened, you're probably getting a max sack or at least pressure or hit or something of that magnitude. He's always there. It's just like I was referencing before, they're not going to go full-fledged in hitting. The fact that he has had 2 or 3 strip sacks in a scenario where you're not supposed to hit the quarterback is pretty telling. Like he's, that's not supposed to happen at that point. People have been confused with like strip sack, and he's truly just so good at getting his hand on the elbows of these guys to the point where he's not jacking them up and hitting them, but he's still getting there and forcing a fumble a couple of times on O'Connell. So, yeah, for Thayer to go up against that consistently, I mean, you're quite literally going to be facing lesser than players after that point. And so Max has been impacting the game beyond belief, and the energy that AP and everybody's talked about with him still very much there.
It kind of reminds me of when back in the day, Khalil Mack would go up against Austin Howard. So it pays off. Uh, how's Getsy? How's Getsy, and how have the players been responding to him as the offensive coordinator?
Yeah, I think it's still super early.
Okay.
I think that there's so many. Devontae talked a lot about his sort of familiarity with the system. I think I think that also might be a very big tell in terms of why the quarterbacks have. It's still going to take them a while to come along. Is that you're not just learning a new system, but a lot of the guys involved in this offense are also learning that system. It's not like when you had even, I know it's not a prime example, but a Josh McDaniels, at least there was enough of guys around that had been in the system that they could go teach it to other guys. In Luke Getsy's case, you're coming in brand new slate, completely new. And I think you talked, or I was talking a second ago about some of those end arounds and scheming up plays. There's been some that have been successful. I think today was the first day that you could get a sense of it, but he's in the ear of the quarterbacks. He's very much talking with the receivers a good amount. And a lot of the run game stuff, it's found success in some of those outside runs we're referencing a second ago too. It's hard to get a final judgment call on, is it trending in the right direction with Getsy or is it not? But as long as you can see a couple of plays here and there making strides from the day before, I think that you can feel that you're in a pretty decent place. And I think that he's at that spot right now where it's early to judge, but he's working his way through with these guys too. But seeing some of those offensive plays we referenced a second ago, maybe they can be in a decent place if they build off a day like today.
Now I know, like you said, it's still early. Besides, Devontae, Jacoby, and Trey. I know Trey had a couple of drops, and he's had a little up and down a little bit. I mean, that's year 2 for a guy like him. How are the other receivers showing up? I know you said Turner's been doing good on the end around runs. That was something that he used to do back at Maryland, and I know he went to Pitt after that. But how have the other receivers been doing? Like Wilkinson. Damn, what's the other kid I say?
There's a lot of guys out there. I mean, I've always been. Yeah, I think it's interesting because Wilkerson was always, even from his time in New England, a lot of people used to reference him as like a practice squad MVP. And so every single time in practice, he's going to bring it. It's really just boils down to the opportunities on the field. And you even look back stat-wise at his time when he was with the Patriots. Whenever he was on the field, he pretty much delivered, whatever the scenario was. So, you never question anything with him in terms of physical traits. He's a great outside boundary receiver too. On top of it, I've been the founding member of the Jacoby Myers fan club for a while. I think the rest of the people in the league are starting to be put on notice a little bit more from just how good he is in terms of the the top half of the league in receivers. There's so many guys in this league at this point to get any sort of recognition or stand out is tough, but he's so consistent, and I think that's something that's really hard to do as a receiver, and something we're referencing that Trey Tucker is going through right now. It's consistency. It's stringing those days together, and every single time you get out there, you don't have to worry about what Jacoby Myers is doing. He consistently is able to beat guys, whether it's red zone, open field, doesn't matter. And I mean, if you want to treat Brock Bowers like a receiver, then you might as well talk about him too, because he's been as good as advertised, and I think that you're expecting an immediate impact when it comes to him, because he's not just looking good out there, but they're making an exerted focus to get him the ball, like we're referencing with end arounds. They have him as a fullback at times. He's lining up in all these different positions, and that's because they know that he's such a skilled player. And so I think that they're trying to focus him more and more.
Here's an off the ball question for you. So with the padded practice, and I know that you can't touch the quarterbacks, how has Aiden's functional mobility looked? Has it gotten any better? Or is he still a statue back there in the pocket?
Well, I think it's a different question, because a lot of people like to use that buzzword. They go mobility. Is he mobile? Can he move? It's more about footwork. Like Tom Brady was not mobile at all, right? But he was maybe as good in the pocket as anybody we've seen in the league, and he was as good at avoiding hits. And I think that's where Aiden needs to get to. We're not expecting him to go out there and run the 40 for the U.S. in the Olympics anytime soon, but he's able to. If he's able to dodge and move up and avoid those things, he's not there at that point yet, because as I referenced, there were sometimes he was holding on to the ball too long, and then the Max Crosby strip sack. So it hasn't been perfect by any means with him, but it's the thing he's working on the most. When he's not doing those team drills, the individual ones, there's a lot of footwork based drills that go along with it, and you got to keep in mind it's his second year. It's obviously tough to compare anybody to Tom Brady, but Tom Brady's footwork and pocket presence really didn't start coming around full-fledged and being elite, if you want to call it that, until maybe 8, 9, 10, towards the kind of maybe the middle to back half of his career. So it takes a lot of guys a long time to sort of figure that out, and that's another thing. That's the speed of the game. So it's not elite at this point by any means, but I think that Aiden, the more reps he gets, the better chance he has. But he's had his struggles here in this camp too.
Got anything else for this man, Phil?
Yeah, I got one more thing.
Besides some sunscreen or some aloe, clearly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm watching his face burn right in front of us. Make it quick.
Let's make it right. The last thing I got for you are Trey Taylor, Palomar, and Chris Smith. I know we heard Morag and we heard Epps, but how have they been doing? I know you got somebody that's trying to fight for that number 2 slot. How have they been doing?
Yeah, I think that a lot of the guys from the second unit, even referencing today, so a lot of those notes, those first team ones I sent out, I haven't included the second team ones, but there was even a deep play today that DJ Turner caught on a back end. I think it was a double move, and it was on those safeties and just kind of that group. So, that's going to be a big word that I use, is room for improvement. And some are young and some are just kind of finding their way in terms of the special teams. I think that a big talking point today was about the new kick return rules. And we had a lot of special teamers we were talking to. And let's be honest, a lot of those guys are going to have to find their spot on the team through that before they do anything regarding this defense, who we're talking about now being in the conversation of top 10. Like, hopefully that's not dropping off anytime soon, because those guys would be put into roles where they have to make plays immediately. And right now they're not being asked to do that at all. So they've been burned a couple of times, and then they've been making plays here or there. So it's kind of what you'd expect from any young player at this point in some of their first camps and some of their early ones too.
Okay.
Cool beans. Well, thank you for your time, Logan. We'll have to do this again sometime mid-season. All right, I got one last one for you. Since the last time we talked, we were talking about, is AP the man? Now that he is the man and you're going and seeing what's happening in training camp, is he been everything that you thought he would be?
He's definitely been everything that we thought he would be at this time of year. I mean, we're just 6 practices in. If he's right. Not that, I would be pretty concerned. But you can tell he has a command of the room, and I think last year was so emotionally heavy that when he took over and there was some success, that naturally it was going to, the fall in love factor was going to be even more, was going to be even higher. And at this point, you can tell because when he's out there, it's just a different level of, you can get a guy who yells at somebody and then they don't react well to it, right? It feels like every time that he's, gotten on guys or yelled at somebody, it comes from a place of almost like a tough love where that guy at the end of the day knows he's still in your corner, right? And so it feels like every single time he's yelled at like the linebacker group or, offensive line, those guys have ended up making a play one or two plays later. And I think that comes from a place of knowing that he's got their back. So, so far, so good. We'll definitely see how it has to translate into the preseason games. Then again, they've had success in the preseason games, and that hasn't necessarily translated to the regular season too.
Yeah, that's true.
But the message is very similar to what it was last year. Evident on the first day of pads where they said we're going to come out and bang bang, and that's just, I feel like you have that old school mentality at all times. And it kind of feels like old school camp in that way. There's certain limitations that you're not able to do. You can't do the 2-a-days. You got the Guardian caps on. It's all about the safety. At some points, you don't have to go. You can't go as hard as you would in sort of that old school. But football wise, it feels like this team still has that old school mentality that they had towards the end of last season. And apparently, those cigars, victory cigars, aren't going anywhere according to Max. So that's definitely an AP influence. That's an AP influence as well.
All right. Nothing wrong with it. Thank you for your time, Logan. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Logan. Man, get out that sun, man. You looking like Josh McCown out there in the fourth quarter, boy. Come on.
I'm about to go in a bunker.
Get some sunscreen, bro. I'm not tearing you up, man. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you guys. We'll see you soon.
All right.
All right. Take care.
8 News Now. Sports anchor Logan Reever. Good man, friend of the program. That was definitely informative. So before we get up out of here, there's 257 people watching this live. Please like, subscribe. Send it to one person. Just send it to one person. So
send it to your granddaddy. Send it to the old cranky daddy that you got that talk Raider with you and needs something to watch. Send it to him. Send it to that co-worker that's a Raider fan and ain't got shit to do. Send it to him.
Send it to somebody who needs the unfiltered truth, which is everybody.
Shit, you guys can put the subtitles on there. We do Espanol, we do Mandarin, we do all that shit on here now. Sign language, yeah,
all of it.
All of it.
All of it. Send it to the drug dealer in your apartment. Hey, if he's selling flour. But anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we'll take your questions right now for a couple minutes before we get up out of here. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Please drop these questions off.
Unfiltered truth, no jutsu. Oh shit.
To the iPhone users. Fuck off, Rich.
Rich, you need God.
Dry me. No. That's right. Get him. Yeah, where's the queen? Get him. Chase him out of here. Nasty pork.
Shit. That must have been the pork that Farrakhan was talking about.
I wouldn't have ate that either. That would have made that had me out there with them brothers too.
You know what? Going to wrap this shit up.
That's why I'm gonna start reading these comments before I put them up again. This month. Oh man. Somebody give me something better than that to wrap up with. Never mind, too late. Wow, here.
Hi, monster on the beat, ho, Debo, any rap nigga, he a free throw, man down, call her Amber Lambs, tell him breathe, bro, nail a nigga to the cross, he walk around like Tizo. What's up with these jabroni ass niggas trying to see Compton? The industry can hate me, fuck them all and they mama. How many options you really got? I mean, it's too many options. I'm finna pass on this body, I'm John Stockton. beat your ass and hide the Bible if God watching. Sometimes you gotta pop out and show niggas. Certified boogeyman, I'm the one that up to score with him. Walking down whole time, I know he got some hoe in him. Pull on him, extort shit, bully the flow on him. Say Drake, I hear you like I'm young. You better not ever go to cell block 1. To any bitch that talk to him and they in love, just make sure you hide your little sister from him. They tell me Chubb's the only one that get your hand-me-downs. And party at the party playing with his nose now. And Baka got a weird case, why is he around? Certified lover boys, certified pedophiles. Wop, 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 wop. That fuck him up. Wop, 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 wop. I'ma do my stuff. Why you trolling like a bitch, ain't you tired? Trying to strike a chord and it's probably a They not like us. They not like us. They not like us.